Here we are, the first Acco Talk About It back in a long time. This is Trina, Chakrabarti Music. Welcome to
I
the
am so
scene.
honored to be your first back in so long. Oh my goodness.
My dad welcomed you in with a goat.
I love it.
You're
I
so
love
welcome.
it.
Yeah, so we haven't done a chat since I think August.
Wow.
My everything hit the fan basically. We went back to gigging here and there. I got partnered. I started a stream team, which you're in.
I was so excited about that.
You were one of the very first people that I wanted to ask. And even though I haven't known you long, and I told the audience earlier that we met in the collective. I had never come across your channel before, actually.
Oh yeah. I mean, to be fair, like I started not too long ago. It's just been over a year and a half for me.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so, like, I just hadn't, I don't know. There were a couple people in the collective that I hadn't ever come across. So I was very, very happy to meet you in the collective. And in this channel, we only say the collective in one way. It's the collective.
And the collective. I love it.
Yes. I knew you would get it immediately. And so I did mention this earlier, is that you are so incredibly, like, you're so multifaceted. So before we get started, I kind of told everybody earlier, you have a master's in music therapy, you're a streamer, you're a dancer, you are obviously I said collectively chronically sickening, so many things. And so obviously there's so much more to you. And so what I would love for you to do is, for all the people in the chat, kind of give a rundown of your content, what it is you do. For me, I'm not even sure where to begin. Your content is everywhere. So,
I mean, I think it represents me because I'm also everywhere. brain everywhere.
Oh, I was like, no, you really are everywhere on the internet.
Oh,
though.
on the internet for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, you mentioned, yeah, I'm a music therapist by training. So, and I do music therapy as like kind of my day job. I see clients on the regular. And I adore it. I was doing my master's when the pandemic hit, actually. So I had to like finish that off online and in like this weird spot, and wasn't allowed back to the city my school was in for a while because of borders closing, and all my stuff was there. It was a whole thing. It was
Yeah.
a whole thing. But yeah, I finished that, and when I think, like, I know a lot of people on Twitch that like joined more recently kind of have a similar pandemic led them to Twitch journey.
Yeah.
And that's really what it was for me, because like, I mean, for the longest time I thought Twitch was like a gaming space. Like, I didn't know that there were other things on here. I didn't know there was like this community of musicians. I didn't know that there were like art streamers and like all these other things. I had no idea. And I had like a couple friends that had started Twitch, and they were doing gaming, and I realized though that like when I was like just on there, like when I was looking through suggestions, I was like, wait, you can do music on here?
Yeah.
Like, I just like didn't know. And the thing is, I miss that so much, because like, especially like during my master's degree, it's like I didn't really have much opportunity for performing, right? So with the combination of that, and then also pandemic hitting, I was like, all this live music stuff, just I haven't done it in so long and I miss it so much. So it was great that it like this kind of like gave me the opportunity to do that kind of thing that I miss so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I just like kind of started doing things elsewhere too. Like, I'm on TikTok, and like, yes, I post music stuff, but I also am just very memey on there.
I know. I love it. I
just,
absolutely love it.
I love causing chaos, and like
And when you stream, you also cause chaos.
oh yeah, I have the wildest redeems on my channel.
I
It's
know.
just like, yeah, I know, like, and it's like, I always like, whenever there's like new people, I'm just like, caveat, like, am I a serious musician? Yes. Do I also have a vacuum as my mascot and throw around squishmallows? Also, yes.
Yes, also yes. Hmm.
All of the above. But it's been great, and I think, like, for me, like, as a fellow spoonie, I'm sure you understand this, but Twitch has been, like, a more accessible way for me to do music
Hmm.
because live things aren't always the most accessible for me.
Yeah.
So that's also been kind of like this blessing in disguise as well.
Yeah. And I wish a lot of, and I'm preaching to the choir here, but I wish a lot of those mandates had stuck around for people like us because
Oh yeah.
if there were still many, there's a cat on my lap, by the way. If it looks like I'm like busy, there's a cat on my lap.
I
He's just
love
hanging
it.
out. It's fine.
Oh,
There's a
hi.
Sean man. So I'm just, my hands are just moving.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if the mandates had stayed, I would probably actually be able to go places now.
Mhm.
Because I felt better about going places when all the mandates were still there and like maybe
Oh,
I wasn't
totally.
fully vaxxed yet. But now, even though I'm fully vaxxed, it doesn't really like it's like I still don't want to go to
Yeah.
that place. Like,
I feel that so much,
yeah.
like and I think we had very similar reasons for not attending TwitchCon and
Hmm.
like yeah, like
Yeah.
without any kind of, and I know later they did put in mandates there, but they had taken them away on planes, so it's like,
Yeah.
and even like, and I'm not sitting here trying to be shady, but like,
I am.
I
I
saw
am.
pictures and a lot
I am.
like I saw a lot of pictures and a lot of unmasking and a lot of not being careful, and I'm
Yeah.
like, like
Yeah.
clearly that wouldn't have been a safe place for me and
Yeah. And I
other
mean, the
people, but
music part of TwitchCon was outside. I can understand
mhm.
a lot of it, but then there were a lot of little tiny indoor venues that were booked as round as well. And there was
Mhm.
little to no masking. And they weren't sanctioned TwitchCon places, they were just public
Mhm.
places that were booking gigs for these musicians around and near the area. And so
Yeah.
I felt the same way. Everybody was like, "Oh my God, they announced masks. Are you going to go now?" I'm like, "Well, no, because
Yeah.
travel just got fucked. Now I can't.
Yeah.
It doesn't work either way." And
That's
for
the
anybody who
thing.
doesn't know, Trina is in Canada, so that's a whole other complication of trying to
Yeah.
travel to the U.S. Uh,
Absolutely. And like for we kept our mandates on planes longer than the US,
yeah,
but they were gone by the time of TwitchCon 2,
yeah.
and I was, yeah.
Yeah, and that shit is hard. And one of the things my audience knows that one of the things I talk about in Akko Talk About It is that I really only have people on who inspire me in some way. So sorry not sorry is what I was trying to say is that your advocacy, your activism through social media is seriously top tier. I don't think that there's another streamer or musician. Like, I don't think there's another person I follow other than maybe somebody who's like an A-list celebrity or something who seriously does as much as you do. Like, y'all, if you want to know more about like disability advocacy, if you want to know more about like indigenous like visibility, like Trina, you need to follow her everywhere because I have learned so much from you. Like,
Oh, that is so sweet, Erin.
and well,
Like,
because I live in a little bubble and we need people like you to shove it in people like me's face. Because you know what I mean? Like you only learn so much being in your little bubble.
yeah,
And
no,
you're really
absolutely.
good at just pushing it in people's faces in the best way. And I love it. And I
Oh,
very commonly will follow accounts because you post stuff by them and I'm like, "Whoa, this is really helpful. Thank you." Um,
oh, that makes me so happy. I'm
yeah.
glad that like that works,
Well,
because sometimes I'm like
it works for me. I could say, I don't know. I am like so into watching Instagram stories and like that's like my go-to. If I need to decompress. Oh my God, hi Abby. Um and
happy.
there's a segue for you. I saw you're doing a thing with Abby tomorrow. That
Oh,
looks
it
like so
that
much
is
fun.
not deep like this at all. That is
But it looks real fun though.
Oh,
I
heck
can't.
yeah.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that later. Abby C Music is also collectively chronically sickening.
Chronically
Collectively
sickening.
chronically sickening. I think she might be the only other one. I don't know, actually. Come to think of it.
Yeah, that's in both?
Yeah, I don't know who I stand deeply. And hi, Adam. Yes. I mean, who wants apologies for content creators being picky about their guests? Yeah, it's really hard for me because people have come into the chat and been like, "When are you taking recommendations?" And the answer is that I am not
Yeah.
because I am kind of picky about who I have on. Oh yeah, Dree. Dree
Dree. Oh,
also would
we
be
love
both.
Dree.
So Dree's on my list. Many of the
Hmm.
chronically sickening members are on my list because if somebody's in chronically sickening and they're doing advocacy, then I want to talk to you, you know.
Yeah.
But Trina, I think of everybody I know, you're doing it the best.
Oh, that
I
is so sweet, Erin. And like honestly, like for you to say that I inspire you, like, you were like one of the first music streamers I found, so like you inspire
really,
me a lot. So that just
I didn't know
that
that.
means a lot to me. Yeah, well like it was cuz I was like a hyper lurker for like a year.
Oh my
So like
god,
I never actually talked to anybody, but I was watching.
that's
I was just like
fantastic.
I'm watching. I'm not speaking, but I know you.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you knew who
Cuz
I
I was
was
just like
then.
I knew who you were.
That's
Yeah. And
funny.
like I think yeah, it was just like me still getting like used to the space and like just
Yeah.
being scared and like, like um when we talk about advocacy and like yes, it is very important to me. Part of the work I do as a music therapist, I'm on the anti-oppressive practice team at my job,
Yeah.
which is we are constantly bringing in speakers from marginalized communities to talk with the team, talking about how social justice and therapy really go hand in hand. I always say therapy is political because it is. And um, these world issues are really near and dear to me. And I think they affect so many more spaces than um, people assume they affect.
Yeah.
And that's why like on my channel, like I would never have like a no politics rule or anything like that because I think that's damaging.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
like I have like a no bigotry rule. But I think those are different things. I think it's important
Yeah.
to speak about things that make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And because being uncomfortable does come from a place of privilege, right? Like if all you feel is uncomfortable, then like you should count yourself lucky. Because a lot of people in the world wish that all they felt was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
um
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel that.
So and I'm not perfect by any means. Like I'm always still learning, and I'm learning like from the accounts I post. I learn so much from them, and I
hmm
learn Turth.
I
Sorry.
know. I know. I saw it too. Truth. She turned her mic off too, so she's totally incapable of defending herself.
Yeah. I love it.
She's sitting here painting, and
I
just
love it.
turned her mic off. Truth. Um, instead of
Um,
therapy, I'm gonna call it turthery. Now it's a new
Turth.
word. Turthery. Turth forever.
That's one of my favorite things to do is just pronounce things incorrectly. Like I adore doing that. I think a lot of neurodivergent people adore doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, and like I feel like I'm around a lot of people that didn't know they were neurodivergent till later in life. And um I don't even know where I was going with this, but one thing we all bond over is saying
There it
things
is.
incorrectly on purpose.
You start talking about neurodivergence and you're like, I don't know where I was going with this. It's like, ding, ding, ding. There
Yeah,
it is.
ding ding ding.
There it is. But that's something that was on my list too, though, is that like
Mhm.
I don't specifically want to talk about ADHD, but I want because I feel like you're gonna have something to say about this, is what has happened on TikTok, on all socials. I think it's mostly TikTok, to be honest with you, though. Like the buzzwords and the trendiness of having ADHD, self-diagnosis, or any neurodivergence at all. Because you know the difference. People like you know the difference. And Trish is probably going to sit here nodding like this because she knows too. She's literally sitting here yelling, uh-huh, yep. And so I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit. How do you feel about that? Like, have you seen anything good come of this self-diagnosis? I don't know. How are you feeling about that whole thing?
Yeah, so I think it's a very nuanced and complicated discussion.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, I have seen things that are just going back to, using mental illness diagnosis or diagnoses of other sorts in general as description words.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of like, oh, I'm so ADHD, just like I've seen in the past, I'm so OCD. And like, I've
Uh-huh.
always been so against anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, on one hand, like, I think it's kind of increased that kind of thing. And I find that obviously hugely problematic.
Yeah.
I also think that, like, a lot of symptoms that neurodivergent people have. Well, first of all, it varies. Like every person with ADHD, it's not going to manifest in the same way. Every autistic person, it's not going
Mm-hmm.
to manifest in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
There's differences across the board, gender, age, um,
Just so
just
many things.
everything,
I know
race, like
everything.
it just everything,
Yeah.
everything. And that's a big problem with the DSM as a whole, is that a lot of the diagnostic criteria were created for like white boys, and
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
like a whole other discussion I could go into for like years. But
No, I get
but
it. I get
so
it.
so there's that aspect that's super problematic, and then there's the other aspect of people genuinely learning about themselves, and like potentially even, one video maybe led them to go and talk to a therapist
Yeah.
and figured out that they had a diagnosis they weren't aware of. And I think that is a good thing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see an issue with that. Um,
Yes, Abby.
but
Yes.
Abby and I just like rant about things constantly. I love it. But I think that's a good thing, like to have options that are more accessible for people to discover themselves. But I do think it's a problem when people who do not know what they're talking about start talking and
Yeah.
start
Yep.
and start simplifying things to a checklist
Of course.
versus actual lived experiences, or if you're a therapist, like actual therapeutic training. And so, like, I love when I see like fellow therapists on my page talking about things, or I love when I see people that like truly are um super aware of their experiences, and just trying to advocate for people that aren't advocated for.
Yeah.
That aspect of it is great. But and my For You page knows me very well, so sometimes like I don't see stuff, and then I see articles on it later, and I'm like,
Yes.
wait, what do you mean this was viral? Because like when I think something's viral, it's not actually viral. Like, like doubloons and stuff. Like I'm on weird sides of TikTok, so what I think is viral never actually is viral.
Yeah.
But
No, I
but
have
then
the same issue. I never see the viral
yeah,
things. Never.
yeah.
Never.
Like those like massive TikTokers like never once come up on my For You page. And like that's not me saying like, oh my god, good enough. Like it's not that
No.
thing. It's just like I'm a weird person and weird things show up on my page.
No. Listen,
But
I don't my For You page on TikTok is usually gonna consist of dumb trends. And for some
yeah.
reason, this is strange because I don't know why this happened. I don't think it's Trisha's fault. It could be Trisha's fault, but I don't know why. Is that female wrestlers have become, I don't know why. I don't know why. I was never
Mhm.
into wrestling. It's great for somebody else, just wasn't my bag.
Mhm.
But lately,
Mhm.
female wrestlers specifically are coming up on my For You page. And I'm like, I mean, this is cool, but
Yeah.
it's
I
very
feel like for
strange.
me it's just leaning into the bi panic of it all, but like
That's okay. Listen, I wrote down in my notes, Demi Ace bi, parenthesis, full of bi panic.
I
So
love that.
so I need to understand what you mean by this though. I've seen bi panic on like memes and shit, but it does
Yeah.
you what does it mean though? Maybe Trish probably could have answered that for me beforehand, but I
I
don't know
think
what it
for
means.
me, I think for me, what it means is Trina came out at age 28, and a
Okay.
lot of, and I feel like that's why the panic is truly at the forefront, because a lot of it is just me like realizing, oh, it wasn't that I thought that person was just objectively beautiful.
Okay.
Or like,
Fair.
you know, And and I think, and I talk about this too on how like being demisexual and being on the asexuality spectrum
Mhm.
made figuring out that stuff a lot more complicated,
Mhm.
especially when we live in a society of heteronormativity. Because, like, I always have to explain this to people. Like, if I think someone's attractive, that doesn't mean I'm attracted to them.
Mhm.
Like, they're different things.
Yes.
It's weird. It's a weird thing to explain.
I'm right there with you
But
though.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and like I you know, I feel like growing up, I had a lot of people like think I was flirting with people or think I had feelings for people when I was just like existing and trying to make friends.
Yeah.
And like, yeah. And like, but the thing is, they only did that with men and boys. Like, they never did that with
Mhm.
any other gender.
Yeah.
And so like I just like internalized like, oh, that's what this is. And in my head it was just like I really want to be friends with this person. I guess that's what a crush is.
Yeah. Listen, okay, this is cute, and I don't talk about this very often, but listen. So I came out as pan on like social media. I didn't like put some big giant post, "Hey guys,"
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
but because this was in like 2008. So when
Mhm.
I went to college in 2008, and I learned all these words that didn't exist yet. I mean, gender fluid, I learned. Obviously, queer was around, but we were still kind of getting it back. It
Yeah.
was still kind of a slur in 2008. But I learned about pansexuality and asexuality, and I was like, oh man, like the gears started turning. And so I committed to putting pansexual in all of my profiles, right? Just any profile that existed on social media. But I didn't do this big coming out thing. And so I was with a couple of women, but it wasn't serious ever. It never really got to be anything. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It never became
Mhm.
serious enough for it to be public or anything like that, super public. I was with predominantly dudes, hetero dudes.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
then I was in therapy, as you are sometimes, and I was trying to leave a really messy situation. There was the partner I was with was verbally abusive. He lived in my space, so I had to wait for his ass to get out, which was
Mm.
terrible. And in the meantime, I was getting closer and closer to this girl I worked with, and I was in therapy trying to figure out how to end the situation. And I was always talking about this girl. And then finally one day I said to my therapist, I'm like, I think that I actually like, I think that it's more, I think I like her. But because I had accepted a long time ago that I'm attracted to that person, and it's not just you're objectively beautiful,
Mhm.
but I hadn't been like just really super attracted to a girl in that way in so long that it confused me all over again. And motherfucker, I'm like 29 at the time. Like, why am I
Yeah.
confused? Maybe that's by panic. I think I maybe just figured it out for myself.
That you literally just described it.
I think
You
that
literally just described
you
it.
just watched a light bulb. Oh no.
I
Okay.
watched a light bulb.
You really did. That was pan panic for me. Um,
Yeah.
but and that girl was Trish, so we're still together.
Yeah, I love that.
But I said to my therapist, I'm like, I think that I might have a crush on her. Is what I'm saying that? And she's like, fucking finally, Jesus. Because she's like a millennial too. And she's like, fucking finally. Did you just figure it out? Like, it was adorable.
Oh, I love
So
that.
I can relate though, because like nobody ever wanted to pay attention when for a long time I also said and thought that I was cisgender, and only in like the last 2 years have I really come to the terms that I'm not cisgender.
Mm,
So
mhm,
all
mhm.
these things, and like where you grow up, and like you said, what your ethnicity is, it all just contributes to like this one giant mess that
Yeah,
that like how do you figure it out? You like
yeah.
yeah, I have no idea.
And, and like that's the thing. Maybe 4 years from now, I'll realize some other part of my identity I don't know now. And
Yes.
like, it's just eh, your upbringing and everything. Like, there's just so much that goes into it.
Mhm.
And there's so many layers to it.
Mhm.
And um like and that was the thing, like being in a long-term straight passing relationship, like
Mhm.
it makes you like doubt yourself for questioning things.
A hundred
You
percent.
know, cuz
Yes.
cuz it's like I'm sitting here like I love my partner deeply and I want to be with them forever. Um so like part of you feels like selfish for questioning your sexuality in those moments when it's not. And you know, my partner is super lovely. It was funny when I finally like stopped being like, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm like not, maybe I'm just like a little bit not straight. Like when I stopped saying that, and, like maybe I just like, maybe I'm just like, yeah. So, and the thing is like, it's really funny. We like often have the same taste in women, which is hilarious because like we'll
You,
watch shows
me
and
and
like
Trish
both,
too.
yeah. And so I remember when I told him, I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm bi. And he's like, yeah. It's like,
A
it's like,
skosh. Yeah.
exactly.
A
Um,
skoosh.
yeah. And like, I'm grateful, like, I have the people in my life now that, like, you know, really care and support me and gave me the flexibility to explore these things that
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily in a safe space to do when I was younger, when I was in high school or university. I really wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
I had a really toxic relationship at one point too. And like, just like the trauma and like that comes from that, just like it makes you like fully separate yourself from people and just become in your own bubble,
Yeah.
and it gets really isolating, and it takes a long time to feel safe enough that you're
Yeah.
around people that allow you to explore these parts of yourself.
Mm-hmm. And I got lucky in that way. Like my university that I went to was super liberal and gender
Mhm.
studies class upon gender studies class. And that's the
Yeah.
only reason I even started to begin to learn about it was
Yeah.
because of the space that I ended up going to. And I'm super
Totally.
grateful for that because I don't know when that would have happened for me. Because
Yeah.
it really did. Just the fact that I just happened to be in these relationships as a heteronormative passing situation, it did. It
Mhm.
kind of felt like it erased my queerness, and I never could really say this. Okay, yeah, but you're with a dude. Like, right, but
Yeah.
like that doesn't mean I wouldn't be with somebody else. It's
Totally.
and I'm so
Totally.
glad that people are having that conversation now. I'm so
Yeah.
glad because it was
Absolutely.
exhausting having that conversation about a trillion times over.
So exhausting. No, it's so exhausting. And like, yeah, and like the A spectrum stuff going into it too,
Yes.
like people also first of all not knowing the difference between aromantic and asexual, and
Yeah.
also not knowing that still both of those things fall on a spectrum,
Yes.
um is always like, I mean, I remember when I first heard the word demisexual, I literally burst into tears because of just like how seen I felt.
Yeah.
Cause like yeah, it was literally just a friend of mine in undergrad, and she was talking about a character in a book, and she like referred to him as demisexual, and I didn't know what that was, so I
Mhm.
asked, and when she told me, I literally like and like we weren't like the closest of closest friends either. It was just like one of those like undergrad friends, and
Yeah.
so like she was just like really like, what's happening right now?
Wait, did we just become best friends? Is that
Yeah.
moment? Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
um so so yeah, it's just like sometimes you just like don't know the language either, and then
Yeah.
like, you know, like some people are more comfortable not having labels, and that's perfectly fine. Like I've always just been about like, use what works for you, and if
Yeah.
you don't want a label, that's just as valid as if you want a label.
Yeah.
um but for me, and I think part of this comes from having mental illness and being a spoonie, it's like labels help me.
Yeah, same.
And yeah,
Mhm.
and just like putting names to things has just always helped me. And because it's just like, oh, that's what this is, like that,
Yeah.
it just makes things make more sense for me. And that for me also like ended up falling like on the sexuality spectrum too. It
Yeah.
applies on both ends for me.
Yeah, and I just because we just talked about asexuality in our chat the other day, Arma just mentioned this. And so I do think it's worth it to explain just in case there are people watching who don't know because this is how
Hmm.
we learn. Like the
Yeah.
asexual spectrum for me, I'm extremely flux and it has to do hugely with my relationship to my body and
Mm.
being an endo warrior With
Mhm.
endometriosis comes a ton of physical symptoms when you're dealing with sexual, like, not what is the word I'm looking for? Not symptoms. Arousal,
Symptoms,
if that makes sense.
arousal.
Yeah, like I'm like failing for the word right now to find the word, but if that
Yeah.
makes sense, like there's so many
Mhm.
terrible things that come along with the physical parts of having sex as an endo warrior, and I know that's not the only one, you know.
Yeah.
And so for me, it is so difficult for me to love my own body and be okay with it, and
Mhm.
also decide, yeah, I want to be in pain. I want to
Yeah.
do that. I want to feel like shit tonight.
What
Absolutely.
a mood.
So, like, I know for a fact that my asexuality is so incredibly connected to my physical issues. So, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. I can't imagine,
Yeah.
like, I'm sure, but I'm sure there's millions of able bodied people who are also asexual. That's a different reason entirely. And,
Totally.
and so, like, for me, I know it's hugely connected to my body. And the symptoms that come along with that. And it's shit, but it kind of is what it is for me. And so while we're here though, because I do not identify as Demi, I would rather have you
Mhm.
explain it, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to.
Yeah.
Um, so demisexuality is, and again, there is a spectrum, but it's basically defined as you cannot experience sexual attraction without a really strong emotional bond. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons where, like, I was wondering for a while whether my being on the A spectrum was related for me to chronic illness. And I
Hmm.
won't say it isn't at all, but I will say that when I learned about demisexuality, it just made things make sense from like way before I had any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, like I remember like I I was never judgy about one night stands, but I never understood them. Like in my
Yeah.
brain, I just didn't get it. Like I was like very much like you do you. Like I want people to do whatever they want with their bodies, but like just I didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Um and like realizing so much of that was like I can't feel any kind of attraction to someone I've just met. And like that's a
Yeah.
big part of it. I can't. And like I talked to a friend about this. We talk about basically parasocial relationships with fictional characters as a demisexual because that's like
Okay.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a thing. And I didn't realize how like common it was like in the demisexual community.
Hmm.
But a big part of that is like when you're a heavy book reader like me or even like with watching shows or whatever, like I get so emotionally attached to fictional characters,
Yeah.
and it's cuz you're getting to know them. Like you
Hmm.
really are getting to know them on a deep level. Um but it's why like, I'd like watch a show or something or a movie with a friend and like I wouldn't have that instant like, "Oh my god, that actor's so hot." But
Yeah.
like as soon as the character started like becoming my best friend in my head, then they were attractive.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
it's yeah, it's like totally a thing and like um and I think that it, it all like kind of ties in with like why I was always drawn to those communities, like those like I was always a big book nerd, a fangirl, like I
Yeah.
was a Tumblr girly through and through, like
Yes. Yes. I loved Tumblr.
yeah, and like I'm sort of back on it and
Hmm.
like I had to like go back through my stuff and was like, "Oh no.
I
Oh
went through all my Tumblr shit too recently. Yes. Uh huh.
no." Yeah.
It's not
um
great.
but but like it's like I I think like I've seen a lot of, and of course this is like by no means applied across the board obviously, but I have met a lot of ace flux ace spec
Hmm.
people in these like fandom communities in like
Hmm.
D&D spaces or like in like Comic-Con spaces, like anything like that. And I think I don't know, like it's like these worlds can be like a safe place for us
Hmm.
to kind of explore what we're not allowed to explore in the real world
Yeah.
as being considered like broken or like no it's just something's not working or like things like that.
That you're
It's
not
like
normal. That's what I
Exactly.
hate that we still have to refer in that way because some people have to learn not to do that. There shouldn't
Mhm.
be a normal. That's
Absolutely.
like, and that's is what makes it so incredibly hard. Everything other than hetero tends to be just
Yeah.
labeled as other.
Yeah.
Everything else is other, and that's so very
And there's
frustrating.
so much else,
Hmm.
which is why it's like it just like and it's the my same issue like being as a woman of color. It's like everything that's not white is just other, right?
Yes.
Like, it's the same thing. It's like white and then black indigenous people of color. And I'm like, "Wait.
Wait, I'm not
You know
what?
how many people fall under that?"
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
um
That's not fucking cool at all. Not at all.
no.
And that's another reason I love that you have yourself like again with the labels. I'm the same way. I want
Mhm.
everybody to know every little single thing about me. All of my
Yeah.
profiles have just a list of labels. And I love that you proudly put Indian Canadian in
Yeah.
your, you know what I mean? Like and
It's
you are
important to
so
me. Like
good.
it's a
Yeah.
huge part of who I am and my identity and like, like growing up and like being so othered. Like, I was
Mhm.
bullied hugely for like my food. Like my lunches would
Oh,
get made fun of constantly, things like
yeah.
that. And like I feel like a lot of people like that have a similar experience to that as a person of color, like
Mhm.
goes through a lot of life almost being embarrassed about their identity and
Yeah.
like having to like grapple with it, and then eventually you grow and again you find people that accept you and suddenly are celebrating your food and celebrating your culture and like excited when you want to share parts of it with them, and
Yeah.
like it's I'm just like, "Wait, you want to eat my mom's food?" And they're like, "Yeah, like
Yeah.
all of it immediately, like right now." Like
Like, do you have more at home? Can you yeah.
exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I love that. And and I think the fact that food is very much a way like in Indian culture we show love. Like food is love.
Mhm.
Food is very much that sense of home and everything. And so this is like sorry, it just like if this is the most neurodivergent conversation. I'm just like poop.
I
Like,
don't
it's
to be
like
honest, I don't care. It makes it more interesting for me, so
I'm glad. I'm glad. I love it.
I don't care.
Um but yeah, you get to a point when you're like finally reclaiming your culture and remembering why you're proud of it and remembering why it's important to you. And it is so deeply ingrained into who I am. Even like as a musician, like that's how I learned. I learned
Mhm.
through ear because that's how you learn in Indian culture.
Mhm.
Um and then there was like the whole thing of music school and that like not being accepted
Yeah.
and having to go back and do all that western training and being like I'm literally like sitting here like single-handedly trying to like dismantle all these like systems
All the systematic
in
terrorism in here and just like
literally
Trina's
literally
got it.
even like within music therapy, like
Yeah.
within music as like a profession, and like the idea that like we all have to be following the western
The
standard
same thing.
is just like no. And like it caused a lot of imposter syndrome for me, and like it still does. Like I have to like remind myself a lot that like I learned things differently, and
Mhm.
so I do things based on the way I learned them.
Yeah.
And like me not understanding what's going on in this aspect of theory regarding Western music, it's just because I learned a different way
Mhm.
and they're different. It's not one's not better. Um, it's just perceived as that because of the world we live in.
So did that when you had to kind of force yourself, like when did you decide to pursue music in this way? Like was it college, going to college?
Yeah, so it was actually really interesting. In my last year of high school, I had already applied to go into psychology for
Mm.
my undergrad. And I my music teacher like, I was like I really desperately wanted music to be part of my career in some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And I just didn't know how. And then, like, literally, he doesn't even remember doing this, but my music teacher in high school was like, "Hey, have you heard of this cool thing called music therapy?" And I literally was like, "Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Like, that exists? Like,
Yeah.
excuse me?" So yeah, definitely like a huge mind blow. And like I ended up like going to I did my first 2 years away at like the school I applied to, Queen's University. Hated every second of it. And it wasn't hating psychology in and of itself by any means,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very much like that school can be very elitist in general. And
Ah,
like, I just do not fit into that space,
yeah,
obviously, for a
yeah.
variety of reasons. Um, and then, so then, like, I was like doing digging again on music therapy. And then I ended up transferring schools so that I could take an intro course at Laurier University, and I still finished up my degree in psychology and did all that. But it gave me the option after finishing my undergrad to take 2 years and get all the requirements I needed to go do a grad diploma and master's in music therapy, which I ended up doing in Montreal.
Mm.
Um, but even while doing all that, I just remember like just this thing in my head being like, why do I need to get all this Western music training? Right? Like,
Yeah.
why? Like, why can't my skills show themselves? Like, why does it have to be from this Western perspective?
Mm-hmm.
And at one of the schools I applied to, I actually experienced like quite a bit of racism in
Oh,
the interview itself. It was
oh my God, really?
awful. Yeah, it was
Lord.
awful. It was very much a like, and that's what bothered me so much too. I was like, this is music therapy. Like, are you forgetting about the therapy part of it? You know what I mean? Like, it was very much like, I was like, because I even went in there and I was like, well, not all your clients are going to respond to the same things.
Right.
And not all your clients are going to like the same kind of music, come from the same kind of background.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to consider. Not everyone emotionally expresses themselves by the kind of music that you are deeming correct.
Mm-hmm.
Um and like I was like a pop punk girly too, so I think like a lot of my rage came out in that.
Avril
I always
Lavigne
called
and
myself
Paramore all day.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I always call myself like the internal emo because
Mhm.
like again, growing up like child of immigrants, I couldn't like be wearing like tights and
Yeah.
black and sleeves
And arm
but on the
socks and
inside. Yeah.
fishnets and yeah.
Yeah. Which is why I dressed up recently and did all that and it made me so happy.
Just own it. Do it every day.
Oh yes.
If it
Oh
makes you
yes.
happy, do it. You
Yeah.
just do it.
So the only reason I can't do it every day now is 'cause spoons, but
Yeah, that's
but
fair.
when I can, I do it.
That's fair.
But yeah, so like so I went in there and I was like, yeah, like I said, feeling like so belittled and
Yeah.
just like what the heck? It's like they really I was like, I am not coming here and auditioning and interviewing for a Western music performance degree. I'm
Yeah.
coming in and auditioning and interviewing for a therapy program.
Yeah.
And y'all are like so uptight that like you can't even see the own difference and how those kind of mindsets are affecting our field.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to a different school, which again, like a lot of problems are systemic, so it still had its issues, but
Mm-hmm.
like the one thing that like really stood out to me of the school I did end up going to was that they had first of all zero issues with how I initially learned music.
Mm.
And like yes, I went back and did all the Western training, but part of them was like, why? Like, you know what I mean?
Oh my
Like
gosh. And
they're
to
like, cause
hear
like
that after
yeah,
doing, oh my gosh.
yeah. So, and it was like, and like it's not like I don't regret doing the Western training, but I don't regret it because I had such great teachers
Yeah.
and I really value the relationships I built with those teachers. And I do think like it helped me be able to sing in a way that was healthier. Like I valued that part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like as a system, I'm like, tear it all
Tear it, burn it down, down to the
burn
ground.
it
Yeah.
down to the ground. But yeah, like it's just I think like we have a habit of and like this a lot of this is therapist perspective too. It's like in session I do not care how a client sounds. I
Mm-hmm.
do not care because that is so not the point. And I do think arts as a field needs to be more okay with that. Just
Yeah.
like letting people do things because they like it, letting people like things
Yes.
without it always having to be like the best of the best or what you personally consider to be the best of the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because really it's the latter.
Yeah.
But and I remember less perfectionism as
Yeah.
and like I catch myself in this, like when I watch back streams and I'm like, that note wasn't that great, like I catch myself and I'm like,
Anybody
what,
who
like,
knows me in chat's about to call me the hell out because I'll finish
yeah.
it. I'll finish a
I'm
song and be
sure.
like, I've done that better.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
fine.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And like it all comes back to like capitalism, that
Mm-hmm.
everything has to be a side hustle and everything. Like that's hugely a part of it.
Yeah.
But and we do have to check ourselves with it too, because like it's really hard not to get caught up in it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's just like, yeah, people should just do things because they like them. And I know that there was like after the show Wednesday came out, I remember like seeing like all this like, oh my God, her dance was so cringe. And I'm like, excuse me, did you miss the entire point?
See, I didn't see any of that. What
Oh,
I
see, I never saw it on TikTok, but I saw articles about it after, and all I was seeing
Oh,
on TikTok is people getting so excited
yes.
about this like person, this autistic coded character dancing in a way to like pay homage to goth culture. And
Yes.
it was fantastic. Like
Yeah.
even like as a dancer, I thought it was so well choreographed.
It was so
Um
cute. I loved it.
I loved it. I loved it. But like, yeah, I saw like again, it wasn't what I saw, and this is why I say
Right.
like my TikTok is like it knows what I like. But so
Yeah.
I didn't see it on TikTok. I saw
Yeah.
articles about it after. And just being like this like it really just shows to the point. Yeah, and like everyone should have seen it that way.
Yes, Joe Squeffy.
Fun
Yes.
and cool. And it
Mm-hmm.
suited the character. That's the thing. It was about this character expressing herself how she wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that. And I loved that because like that's what we should all be striving to do
Mm-hmm.
every day. That's what I encourage my therapy clients to do. Um and like there is no wrong movement unless you are hurting someone. So like
Yeah.
when it comes to dance, just dance in a way that feels good. Everything is like it's so subjective anyways. So like just do what makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So
No,
yeah.
I love
So
that. Do you bring dance into your music therapy as well?
yeah, I do. I often do. And like my it's been interesting. Just when it comes to checking yourself as well, like, I was a professional dancer for a long time, and my fibro flaring up really badly, plus having long COVID has
Mm-hmm.
significantly changed my abilities to like a huge, huge extent.
Uh,
And it's truly devastating. It is. And I've been trying to find ways to move that I can do that are still fun, and that still bring me joy, even though they might not be what I used to be able to do, and like trying to just like acknowledge those things in the moment rather than comparing to some
yeah.
kind of past self. And it's
Yeah.
hard, like it's not easy by any means. But I do bring in dance into music therapy too. I bring in art as well. It's I think people are often really scared to move their bodies
Yeah.
in any kind of situation where people can see them.
Yeah. Everybody's afraid of
It's
being judged
intimidating.
because that's what our
Yeah,
society does. All they do is judge.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So a lot of the time I bring it in just as a way for like um individuals across the age span, whether they're kids, whether they're adults, to just like move in a way they want, and it can be so freeing. Like I've seen like such beautiful things come out of that. And um I'm grateful that that I'm able to kind of provide a space where people feel safe to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think music
Yeah.
therapy itself still needs a lot of awareness
Oh,
because,
absolutely.
like you said, your band director is the person that was like, oh, by the
Yeah.
way. And for
Yeah.
me, a similar thing happened, and I was this close to going into music therapy, actually.
Oh, really?
I was. And one of my private fruit instructor Flute. My, I mean, a fruit instructor sounds tasty. I don't know what that instructor does, but my private flute instructor, one of her older daughters, who's a couple years older than me, was also going to Eastern Michigan University and going for music
Mm.
therapy. So she was
Okay.
visiting our high school. And
Yeah.
I think she was just, I overheard a conversation about it. And I was like, huh, kind of store that little piece of information in my brain. I mean, a bunch of things happened that I never got into the music studio at Eastern Michigan.
Yeah.
And so
Oh.
it was fun. I got waitlisted and then they were like, "Well,
Yeah.
you can try again next year." And
Mm.
and then they made an exception. They were very kind. They were like, "Well, if you
Okay.
do a minor in flute in music, you can do it and do lessons with like not the person in charge of the flute studio, but like there was another instructor doing lessons."
Mm.
And so they were
Okay.
like, "Well, you were waitlisted, like you were very good." There were just a lot of very good people. So
Yeah, yeah.
and so they did make a really nice exception. And then that professor that I was doing lessons with left and they didn't replace her.
Oh
And I was
no.
already 2 whole years into my degree.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I was about to start like the music education and music therapy stuff in my
Mm.
third year. And it was going to have to be
Mm.
a 5 year degree because
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and so I had just kind of accepted that. And then she left and they didn't replace her. And I was like, oh, okay.
Oh no.
I'm just not going to do that then.
That sucks. Oh my
So like
god.
I was and so that's why I was so interested to talk to you just even just about
Mhm.
music therapy because I was so interested in it. And it was just like
Yeah.
it's a different life for me, you know? It was just
Yeah.
one of those paths that just didn't work out for me, but that I felt so strongly about it
Yeah.
because I that's part of why I stream on Twitch. Like I'm not oh, first response that sucks. Second response, lucky escape. How dare Abby? Abby would know also.
Yeah.
And so I know there's grass is always greener, blah blah blah. You know, I ended up getting a degree in audio engineering and announcing, and
Yeah.
I was going to go into radio and potentially morning anchoring, news anchoring.
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't end up doing that because I got picked up by a wedding band first. Um,
Nice.
but but all those things, either way, whether I
Yeah.
had gone into music therapy or what I did go into, it was preparing me for this.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that people like you, people like Abby, it's
Mhm.
so important, like you were saying at the very beginning of the conversation. Having these uncomfortable conversations on Twitch is just a part of the experience. Like, I would so much rather hang out in a space where I'm learning something, where interesting conversations are happening. Like on your
Mhm.
channel, there's a handful of other people too. But I think that just your music therapy experience just informs the conversation so much better than I could ever try. Because I try to have conversations like that too. I think a lot of streamers do who do advocacy and
Mhm.
visibility work, but like you have all the language like right here in your face. And I struggle sometimes, you know?
Yeah,
And
and
that's another thing. I'm very inspired by people like you specifically, like you just have it right there. And I'm not gonna lie, I use you sometimes. And I'm just trying to
use me all you want.
yes, use me. It's fine. We almost
Um
got Erin in the morning. Almost.
no, but like to that, I do want to say like I think trying is what's most important. Like you don't have to have all the correct language
Yeah.
all the time, you know? I think it's a lot more impactful and braver to be like I'm still going to, talk with my heart and I'm still going to speak to these things that I'm passionate about and know that maybe I won't always get everything 100% right. Like
Yeah.
maybe I won't have all the correct language or the jargon around it.
Yeah.
But just like when you're in a space where people are trying, like you feel safer as it is, right?
Yeah.
Um so so yeah, like just like you don't have to know all the diagnostic criteria and therapy words to
Yeah.
to be a positive mental health space for people.
Yeah. And that's what I hope to accomplish
Yeah.
most days on a good day. I mean 98% of the time. There have been times I turned on the stream and I'm like, y'all, I need to just fucking sang some Lady Gaga. Don't talk to me. Just
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here today and I'm doing my best. but but
Honestly, and
yeah.
like I've done it too. Like I've had the odd person pop in and being like, "Oh, what's music therapy?" And I'm just like tired that day, so I put the MT command and I'm like, "Ask me later."
Read it.
Like,
Yeah.
like sometimes you just, and I think that's valid, right? Like we got to take care of ourselves. And
Yeah.
like if we are not in a place to like have a certain conversation on a certain day,
Yep.
just sing and save it for another time, and that's perfectly okay.
Yeah, and that happens all the time. I mean, the amount that I
Yeah.
stream alone, I mean, it
Mhm.
happens all the time where somebody asks a question and I'm just in no fucking mood to be nice about it. Like, what? Like, bruh, like, read my tags. Can you read?
Yeah.
Read them,
Oh my
please.
god. Yeah, and then there's the trolling. Like there's just like all of that always.
Hmm.
Like,
But yeah, I think
oh my
admitting
god.
that you're not perfect, that's hard for me is
Mhm.
because I am somebody that I have to constantly apologize about pronouns.
Mm.
That is a huge work in progress for me. And you'd think because I am who I am and I am
Mhm.
the age that I am at and that I consume social media the way I do, that I'd be good at it. And I'm simply not. And I need
Mhm.
constant reminders and I find myself apologizing all the time. So that's something that I have to work on personally. Well, hello there. Hi. The look on his face.
He's like, "Oh no."
He's going to say, Trina, you said 6:30. You said 6:30, Trina. Well, hi,
Okay,
bye.
and he also knows that like that was my partner Rdub. He appears on my channel frequently.
I love it.
To cause chaos. Just like the panic in his eyes. But it's also like, yes, time, but also what was going on in his head is he knows that I'm also very terrible about when like I finish a stream or something, I
Uh-huh.
will just stare at a wall for 30 minutes and this man has to like come in and be like, Earth, Earth.
You just called me
So
out too. Hmm.
so he was probably coming in thinking that I was done and was doing the staring at the wall bit and then realized, oh no, she's not done. I do this to
Yeah.
Erin a lot. I love it.
Yeah, she does. Because, there's like a post stream. You have to stay in the raid for a little bit,
Yeah.
if you can. If you
Yeah.
got to raid and run, like it's
You can.
understandable
Yeah.
some days, of course. Like do it if you got
Yeah.
to. But like when you're trying to build a community and network, you gotta stay there for a song or two,
Yeah.
like chill as long as you can, and then you try
Totally.
to do the post stream tweet and maybe in story
Yeah.
share.
I just like didn't do it for like 3 weeks and then was like, oh, I've been forgetting to do this. So I just thanked like 12 people in one tweet. This was like a week ago.
Listen, I did the same thing one day and I had
Yeah.
like over the course of like 3 days, I just like blanked on doing it and I had like
Mm-hmm.
10 people that had rated over the course of like 3 days and I'm like, "Oh no, I didn't say thank you to anybody." But
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes Trish has interrupted the video call and she's like, "Oh, I thought you were done. My bad." Like, "Sorry, nope. Everything's fine." But yeah, sometimes I'll open my phone with good intent to do the
Mm-hmm.
tweet, whatever I need to do, answer a message, whatever, and then I get stuck on TikTok. And oops, I'm
Classic.
scrolling and now it's 20 minutes later and Trisha's like, "Dinner's done. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, uh-huh. I'm coming." Turning off everything,
Oh
like,
yes. Oh
yeah.
yes.
Streaming is a whole other beast,
It is. It
entirely.
really is.
And I didn't want to interrupt you in the beginning, but I was also a pandemic Twitch streamer baby as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't start till April 2020. And
Okay.
I started on my band channel, full band,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't even know that people streamed music. We just did it. And
Oh, you
then
just did it. I love that. I love that so much.
because I didn't know, oh, Marie just called me out. Stop fixing things that aren't broken. To be fair, this scene was very broken and I didn't fix it. That's something. But I literally just I did that and I was just like, what? Why does my brain? Why? Like
Yeah.
I just literally we decided to open up OBS and my bass player in Elsie Banks knew a little bit about OBS and
Mhm.
he made some really crude couple of scenes, nothing on it, just the camera. And he knew how to
Yeah.
switch scenes and he knew how to hit go. He knew what a stream key
That's
was.
all you need to start.
That's all you need. And he knew how to hook our whole entire rig up to OBS with a Scarlett. And that's all. That in itself is amazing to me. He blew my
Yeah.
mind. Like
Oh
that
my
was
God.
only just 3 years ago, basically 2.5 years
Wow.
ago. He blew my mind that he knew how to do this. And our first
Wow.
streams, I don't even know if they had tags, if they had a category. There was probably no
Yeah.
title. Like I didn't know what an emote was. Like we did every single thing wrong.
Yeah.
And we
But
just
like you
did
gotta
it.
start that way.
Sometimes you
Like,
do.
like I didn't start till 2021,
Hmm.
like May, I believe. Um, but I was just like observing. Like I said, like I was a creepy lurker. Like I knew people
But
and
that's
they just didn't know me.
yeah. But I kind of wish that I had done that. But I
Mhm.
also like don't have any VODs from then. So it's
Oh, that's
fine.
good.
I buried
Yeah.
all the VODs prior to 2021. I think I only have a handful of VODs from 2020, and then I think I only archived like starting in May maybe of
Mm.
2021 and on, because I'm like
Yeah.
I'm good. Nobody needs to see the mess that this was.
Oh my God. I
Um,
like when I started, like I didn't even have a chair. Like I streamed on a couch with my Beauty and the Beast blanket. Like
yes,
in the I was like, that's a pretty background.
yes. I didn't have an interface. I didn't have a microphone.
No.
I just literally this keyboard
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
onboard speakers.
Yeah.
And I just put my phone in front of me on a tripod.
Oh yeah.
And Trish helped me make sure the frame was good, made sure everything was working. It was it was so special. It was really
Oh my
special.
gosh.
Yeah. We
I
started from
love
the
that.
bottom, but now we're here and it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I still stream with just one laptop, so like
I
there's some tea.
but I'm streaming from a laptop right now.
Yeah.
I do have a second
I was like, I
screen.
see people's monitors with like 12 monitors, and I'm sitting here like, that is way too much work.
Yeah, I will say having a second monitor, we were gifted a second monitor and it
Mhm.
has been life changing. We had a very
Yeah.
small, very old monitor that didn't like my laptop very much. And it
Mm.
also kind of caused more problems than it solved because it like every time I moved something to it, it would like it didn't.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that was, but you can picture it. It didn't like it. And then we
Yeah.
were gifted a new monitor and it did fix a lot of things.
Mm.
But yeah, I still stream from the laptop that I bought in May of 2020.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love
it
that.
is
I love that.
breaking
Honestly,
slowly, so I do have to fix
yeah.
some things, but
I mean, we
it's
were talking about perfection earlier, right? I'm just if I'm looking down, it's because I'm fidgeting with little sparkly things. Um,
it's fine.
um, but like, I think on Twitch too, we need to like stop being so comparative about others. And part of that also comes to like not all of us have the money to have the setup that some people are able to have.
Mhm.
Um, and like that's not like a fault on us.
No.
And like, I think there's a really big problem in like the expectation to have like all this like super expensive gear that just like not everyone can afford, and I don't
No.
think people should feel like they can't do things because they can't afford the top of the line gear to do it.
Yeah.
Um so
And I mean,
yeah.
I'll be honest, like it took me so long to get to this setup and half of it's gifts.
Yeah.
Almost half of it, honestly.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
and and it's difficult to just even
Mhm.
figure out what it is you need. And then sometimes you get the thing that you want and you're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be. Like this microphone, everybody was like, if you're going to buy that microphone, you better fucking buy a cloud lifter with it. And I'm like, no, it'll be fine. And then I was
You have
like,
the same mic as me, don't you?
uh huh. Yeah. Yeah. That's why I said that. Uh huh.
It was a gift for me. Like this, the looper, like those were all gifts. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't afford any of
Yeah, I had to everything that I bought myself was financed. Hands
Yeah.
down into the ground. Nothing here wasn't financed because that's what we got to
Yeah.
do to stay
Yeah.
afloat. And like even this was one of the last things I wanted to circle back around to was like learning in the collective. Like yes, you do have to like reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
Like not every month, but sometimes the collective. Yes. But like that kind of in itself it stressed me out because part of it is gear and
Mhm.
seeing what people are doing and then learning like what they had to do and spend to do it And like,
Oh, it stressed me out so much, and I'm glad I wasn't the only one on the boat, and I know I wasn't, but, like, in my head, I was literally like, "I can't do any of this."
yeah.
Like
And it was hard because then I started to talk about like, oh man, like Jeremy's lights, Moonlight Social's lights, and how
mm,
everything is, fucking crazy,
mhm.
and I love it. And I'm like, wow, I'd really love to do that. And we had a community member reach out and be like,
Yeah.
Is there one that you want?" And they fucking bought us one of these responsive
Wow.
lights. And I was like, I just over the moon. But then it almost freaks me out when people see the amount of gear I have,
Mhm.
because then it sends a whole other message. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's
Yeah.
such
Oh,
a
yeah.
fucking hard line to walk, and I was just talking about this in the private collective alumni chat, and
Mhm.
I was saying like it's even just getting the check mark is weird because your numbers tank, your revenue tanks,
Mm.
and then you're like, but 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 I'm
I thought
here.
this was supposed to be the thing, the thing that
Yeah.
gets me to do the thing.
Yeah, and so I've been talking about that in the collective alumni chat a lot because I think
Mhm.
that's an important conversation too. And
I've heard so many people say that, like, you become
mhm,
partner and then, like,
yeah,
literally all your stats tank, and I'm like,
yeah.
"That's so bizarre."
Yeah, it's really bizarre, and it's something that I
Yeah.
wish people talked about more. I know people talk about it, but it's just
Mhm.
the whole collective experience, honestly, it's kind of full circle because that's where I met you, and I was so glad
Yeah.
you were in one of the first breakout rooms. And
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else experiences
I
this with
remember
those
I was I
those breakout
was
rooms
in
stressed me
my,
out
like
so much.
oh my god, yeah, they did. They really did. Okay, and also, like okay, this is just, like, a Trina thing, but, like, I remember when the first collective meeting we had, and we go on the Zoom call, and then, like, so many people are just talking, and I assumed that they were, like, the people running it, and then I
Oh,
realized, no, I'm just an introvert, and all the extroverts have just and
yeah.
I was like, "Am I supposed to be talking this much? I don't know any of you
Yeah.
yet. I don't want." And then the breakout rooms is like, you have to talk.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
yeah.
I will
And then I
say
remember when they split me up with you, and I was literally in my work off.
you were. I do remember
I
that.
was on lunch break, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm literally on lunch break in
But
my office."
that's why you became memorable to me because we had just a
Mhm.
real ass conversation, and
Yeah.
I don't remember what we had to talk about because every time there was a breakout room, there was a topic you had to talk about. But we
Yeah.
just had a real ass conversation. I don't
Yeah.
even know if we talked about the thing we were supposed to talk about.
I'm pretty sure I remember that we didn't talk about it. Like, I think I remember
I think we
now.
didn't. I think we were like, I don't even know what the question is, but hey, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, the breakout rooms were bad roulette, and sometimes you'd get somebody who just like didn't know how to speak, or it's
Yeah.
like, are you sure you're a streamer? Are you sure? If I without talking too much shit, that did happen
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes. But I had a great time in the collective, honestly. Those breakout rooms were some a hoot. They were They were sometimes a hoot. I actually missed the
Just
very first meeting. I was so upset.
yeah,
I couldn't be in the very first
I
meeting.
remember
I
that.
didn't miss another one. I made sure to not
Yeah.
miss another one, but I couldn't make the first one, and it made me feel it gave me big time imposter. I was like, "Oh my god, nobody's going to know who I am. What am I going to do?"
Yeah.
Nobody It was really stressful. Trisha's like literally
No.
nobody cares.
Yep. She knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. I'm like, "Okay, it's fine." Yep.
But
Um
yeah, and, like, I couldn't go to the majority of the optional ones. Like you saw, I was at work usually,
yeah.
before I had to go on medical leave for that job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, even though they were optional, it still gave me imposter. Like, everybody went to them, and I'm like, "I'm sorry, but I work an 8:30 to 4:30. I can't."
Yeah, it was so complicated and everybody was bitching and
Mm.
moaning about how it couldn't be worldwide, and it's like, "Well, you don't understand. You have to be within the
Time
time zone."
zones, yeah.
Yeah, these were in-person classes,
Yeah.
and it was a good experience overall. I haven't gotten to pick too many collective members. I think
Mm,
members is brainses. That was incomplete.
mm.
Um I think probably Jeremy was one of them. I'm gonna have double
Mhm.
experience on
Oh,
pretty soon too,
nice.
which I know I'm excited to talk to them again. But the collective was a really cool experience. And anyway, I digress. I'm just happy I met you there,
Me
honestly.
too.
I'm so
Me
happy
too.
I met you there because you were one of the first people I followed everywhere, and then realized you're a spoonie. You're also an a huge advocate for all the things we talked about today. And I do want to wrap up because I was trying to figure out, like, I called you over an hour ago, but then we had some issues. So I still wanted
Yeah,
to get a whole hour in
it's
with you.
yeah, yeah.
So we're past that point now. But I do want to say I never said this once out loud, but if you're on desktop watching the stream right now, there is a really super fancy dynamic follow button underneath Trina's box on the screen. If you decided that you just fell in love with Trina and you need to follow her on Twitch, you can do it without navigating away. You can also do it with the fancy shout out that one of the mods just did. And I wish I knew who because I can never see. It was Trish. I wish it told you who did the shout out.
Thanks, Trish.
Right. Like I can't see normally. So if you decided
thank you,
you want to follow
people.
Trina, also you can do command chat and that will bring up Trina's link tree. And so everything you need is
Oh
right
my
there.
God, you got it all.
This is intensive, Trina. I don't.
My link tree is also like, there's so much. There's like, do you want to read my thesis? You can do it in there. Like-
I love it though. That's why I had so many notes for you because you gave me so much
Yeah.
to work with. And I
Aw.
loved it. And honestly, like I'm the person who I'll be like, "Oh, good, they have a link tree. Let's use that." And then also, I'll go into their link tree and check for broken links and then tell them that their links are broken.
Oh my God, you're an angel.
But none of yours were broken. None of yours were broken, so you're fine.
Oh.
Because
But
normally
like you're an angel for doing that.
well, it's also self-indulgent because I look through every single profile. Ooh, like this. Ooh, there's a different thing here. The buy panic for you was
Mm.
only on Twitter. So just saying.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. I haven't put it everywhere, I guess.
Yeah.
I think Twitter was the first place I put it, and it was just like I had a hyper focus episode of coming out to people via text, and
I love
did
that.
on Twitter during.
You're like, I might as well put it on Twitter. It's fine. But before we wrap up and say bye, I want to give you the opportunity. Tell people what's coming up for you. What do you want to promote the most right now?
Oh, okay. Well, I am actually having a single currently produced by the lovely Alana Maddie.
Fucking
And
dreams
I
right
don't,
there.
yeah, so I don't have any music release. And it's going to be the first thing. I've, waited so long to be able to do this, and I'm so, so excited about it.
Yes.
So yeah, so I would say, I mean, obviously Twitch is like kind of my like main place right now. But then also TikTok and Instagram to hear tidbits to the single and all that jazz
Yes, I love it. And what right now, do you have a normal schedule on Twitch and what is it? If you have one.
So the next week or two is just chaos because it's leading up to me visiting my families for the holidays.
Yeah.
But generally it's Tuesdays at 4 Eastern and Thursdays at 5 Eastern. And when I have the spoons to do so, I throw in a Sunday at 2 Eastern. But
Awesome.
right now everything's chaos. The next week I'm doing 5 days of Twitchmas, and it's just random days and everything, because it's a part of like raid trains and all that.
Yeah.
So it's just chaos right now. But also on my Twitch page there's an announcement section, and it says like all my streams the next because they're a little all over the place.
Like in the panels.
In the panels, yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. So you heard it from Trina herself. Go check out all the things if you want. The link tree, it's right there in the chat. And I just want to say thank you for being my first Acco Talk About It back in like, I haven't done one in like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for thinking of me and bringing me on to be your first one. I'm so glad that we could do this.
Yes. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Again, we're both spoonies, so I feel all of the energy that we have to put forth for streaming, let alone doing extra raid trains, doing extra stuff like this, podcasty type stuff. So I just canceled one on Sunday because I'm like, bitch, no, I got 5 streams this week. Can't.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Literally.
Yeah.
You gotta, it's so important to take care of ourselves, and learning how to say no is whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
Therapize
me, Trina. Therapize me now, please. No, I'm just kidding.
So unfortunately, that's a conflict of interest. So
Damn it. So I guess we're gonna hang up now. Bye. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go before he pops in again and is like, "Are you done?" But we will talk soon, I'm sure, and somewhere
Yeah,
in the interwebs. So thank you for being incredible, and we will talk soon.
absolutely.
Thank you, Trina.
Thanks so much. Take care, Erin.
Okay,
Bye,
bye. You
chat.
too.
Bye.
Bye.